Money is not just paper. It is not just numbers moving across a glowing screen. To the ordinary man, money feels like salvation, proof of progress, the key to freedom, the guarantee of power. But Niccolo Machiavelli, the most feared strategist of human behavior, would have laughed at this illusion. He would have said, "Money is never the thing. It is only the mirror. And what it reflects is far more dangerous than gold itself." For centuries, kings have hoarded it, merchants have chased it, rebels have stolen it, and the poor have prayed for it. Yet still, humanity barely understands what money actually does. The masses think money feeds them. The ambitious think money frees them. But Machiavelli understood the darker truth. Money is not an end. It is a lever. The device that exposes weakness, bends loyalties, and rewrites the choices people swear they would never make. And if you fail to see this clearly, then no matter how rich you become, you will remain controlled by money itself or by the hands that guide its flow. Today, we strip away the illusions. Today, we uncover the 7 brutal truths about money. Truths that will not comfort you, but will change your life if you dare to face them. Brutal truth. Number 1. Money is not power. It only reveals it. This is where almost everyone fails. The world believes that money creates power, that the man who inherits millions, the woman who builds a fortune, suddenly becomes formidable simply because their accounts swell. But look closer. What happens when weak men acquire riches? They become louder. They become arrogant. They believe their wealth has elevated them. But in truth, it has only amplified what was already inside. Money never creates strength. It magnifies character. The coward hides behind luxury. The insecure parades symbols of success. The manipulator becomes generous, but only when it buys reputation. And the fool spends endlessly trying to purchase what intelligence looks like, but never what it is. Machiavelli would warn you, if money changes you, you were never powerful to begin with. The disciplined, the strategic, the self-controlled, when they gain money, they do not become different. They become sharper versions of who they always were. Their calm deepens, their reach extends, but their essence does not shift. This is the first brutal truth. Money is not power. It is the mirror that exposes it. If you chase money thinking it will make you strong, you are already weak. If you need wealth to feel respected, you will never command respect. And if you believe riches will give you presence, then you have confused appearance with reality. Because here is the Machiavellian fact. Nothing is more pathetic than a rich man who commands no respect, who owns objects but owns no influence, who fills rooms with noise but empties them of silence. True power is when people act differently even before you speak, not because of your money, but because of your presence. So the first law is this: do not pursue money to become powerful. Pursue power, discipline, strategy, reputation, control, and let money become the signal of your strength, not the source. Brutal truth number 2. Flaunting wealth is the weakest form of power. We live in an age obsessed with display. Social media parades, watches, cars, mansions, luxury brands, financial transparency, net worth reveals. The modern man believes that showing his wealth proves his superiority. But to Machiavelli, this was not power. It was exposure. When you show the world your riches, you do not gain respect. You mark yourself as prey. Because once people know what you have, they begin calculating how to take it. They know where to strike. They know your weakness. the need to be admired. Machiavelli believed in a principle too few understand. Power is preserved through concealment. If your money is the loudest thing about you, you have already lost. You have told the world exactly where to aim. The wise do the opposite. They build quietly. They accumulate, not through spectacle, but through structure. They let others underestimate them, dismiss them, even pity them, while secretly controlling the entire board. Because there is nothing more dangerous than a man whose true power you cannot measure. Consider history. The wealthiest rulers were not those who flaunted treasure openly, but those who seemed to possess just enough, while secretly holding dominion over armies, trade, and resources unseen. Kings who flexed their gold too brightly often found themselves overthrown, not because they lacked money, but because they exposed its location. In the modern world, the same law applies. If you reveal your assets, you give others the blueprint to dismantle you. If you flaunt your income, you turn colleagues into competitors and allies into saboteurs. If you obsess over appearing rich, you invite predators who study your every move while smiling in your face. So what does the Machiavellian do? He practices strategic invisibility. He allows himself to appear smaller than he is. He lets others believe he is only surviving, while in truth, he controls the flow of the entire game. He creates confusion about his financial state so that no one ever feels certain of his true reach. And in this confusion, he gains leverage. Because when people cannot measure your resources, they cannot predict your moves. When they cannot predict you, they cannot prepare for you. And when they cannot prepare for you, they cannot stop you. The second brutal truth is this: wealth without mystery is weakness. Power without concealment is already lost. If you want to be untouchable, do not let your money be louder than your strategy. Do not let your possessions be louder than your reputation. Do not let your wealth speak when your silence can terrify more. And so, we arrive at the first two brutal truths Machiavelli would carve into your understanding of money, not the motivational illusions you hear from wealth gurus, but the harsh, timeless reality. Money does not create power. It reveals whether you have it. Flaunted wealth is a liability, not a strength. The game has only begun, because the next truths will cut deeper into dependence, loyalty, fear, and the invisible chains that bind even the richest men alive. Brutal truth. Number 3. Money loves attention, not effort. The world tells you, work harder and you will earn more. That is the fairy tale of the obedient. In reality, money does not flow to sweat. It flows to attention. Why is an athlete paid millions to kick a ball, while a surgeon who saves lives barely earns a fraction? Why is a pop star swimming in wealth, while a teacher can barely afford rent? The answer is not effort. The answer is not skill. The answer is attention. Machiavelli would smirk at this imbalance because he understood human nature. Power and wealth are not distributed by fairness, but by perception, and perception follows spectacle. The athlete commands the eyes of millions. The pop star hypnotizes the crowd. The politician bends nations not with sweat, but with theater. Effort may build competence, but attention creates value in the marketplace of illusions. You may be smarter, you may be stronger, you may be more virtuous, but if the world is not looking at you, the gold flows elsewhere. This is why Machiavelli insisted that princes must appear powerful, even if they are weak. Because in money, as in politics, the appearance of value often outweighs the reality of value. So what does this mean for you? If you are invisible, you are poor. If you are unseen, you are worthless. The game is cruel. But once you grasp it, you realize your wealth is not tied to your backbreaking hours, but to how much light you attract. Do not confuse this with shallow vanity. It is strategy. Attention is the gateway drug of money. Without it, you will remain a ghost in the marketplace, screaming for fairness that never comes. Brutal truth. For 4, money escapes those who chase it directly. Here is the paradox that enslaves millions. The more desperately you chase money, the faster it slips away. Look around. The man who needs money urgently, he is forced into the lowest paying job. The woman who panics about bills, she accepts humiliating terms, toxic environments, degrading compromises. The desperate borrower signs away freedom for a quick loan. Need is weakness. And in the language of money, weakness is blood in the water. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. He warned that the desperate man is easy to manipulate because desperation blinds judgment. The one who needs too much will bend, will break, will sell his soul for scraps. Now consider the opposite, the investor who waits, the negotiator who walks away, the ruler who withholds. They are courted, respected, even overpaid. Not because they needed, but because they could choose. Here lies the brutality. Money is magnetized not to hunger, but to sovereignty. The less you appear to need it, the more it chases you. That is why the wealthy grow wealthier. Not only because they have capital, but because their posture is one of indifference. They can wait. They can deny. They can demand better terms. The poor cannot. This truth is devastating if you are broke. But it is liberating if you shift your frame. Stop chasing like a beggar. Start positioning like a ruler. Play the game as if you are already sovereign, already whole. Because desperation is poverty's perfume, and money recoils from its stench. Brutal truth, number 5, money does not care about your morality. Here lies the most offensive truth of all. The one that makes idealists tremble and moralists foam with rage. Money is indifferent to good and evil. The criminal may become rich. The saint may remain poor. The politician who lies may raise billions, while the truth teller starves. Why? Because money does not measure virtue. It measures exchange. Markets do not ask whether your product is noble. They ask only, does it move? People do not reward honesty with cash. They reward whatever satisfies their hunger, their fears, their vanity. This is why Machiavelli warned rulers not to confuse morality with survival. A prince who insists on being good in a wicked world is not noble. He is extinct. Likewise, the man who insists that money should reward virtue will die broke, mumbling about fairness. You may wish for justice, but money obeys different gods. Now listen carefully. I am not telling you to become corrupt. I am not telling you to exploit, deceive, or destroy. What I am telling you is this: stop expecting morality to be rewarded with wealth. If you are virtuous, do it because virtue is its own reward. If you are wealthy, understand that morality did not deliver you there. Strategy did. And if you mix the two, do so with eyes wide open, not blind hope. This is why the naive are devoured. They believe the world is fair. They believe good deeds guarantee abundance. And when reality crushes them, they drown in bitterness. But you will not. Because you see the game for what it is: brutal, amoral, Machiavellian. Money is not your judge. It is not your priest. It is not the guardian of justice. It is a tool, a current, a neutral fire. And fire does not care if it warms or burns. It only obeys the hand that controls it. So now you see, money loves attention, not effort. Money avoids the desperate. Money does not care about your morality. 3 brutal truths, 3 daggers into the heart of every comforting story you were told about wealth. And yet, we are still not finished. Because there is a deeper chain, one hidden in the shadows of politics and power itself. To break it, we must confront the next truth, one that reveals why kings, billionaires, and empires treat money not as the throne, but as the servant. Brutal truth. Number 6. Money is the shadow of power, not its source. Most men confuse wealth with power. They believe that if they collect enough coins, enough contracts, enough digits on a screen, they will rule the world. But Machiavelli knew better. He understood that money is not the throne. It is merely the shadow cast by the one who sits upon it. Power creates wealth. Wealth does not create power, at least not lasting power. Look to the great rulers of history. Did Caesar buy Rome? Or did Rome's power mint Caesar's coins? Did Genghis Khan accumulate his empire through silver? Or did silver pour into his coffers only after his horsemen bent nations to his will? Money follows authority the way water follows gravity. It flows downhill toward the one who commands. That is why Machiavelli wrote not about wealth, but about force, about presence, about the architecture of fear and loyalty. He knew that if you pursue only money, you become a merchant. But if you pursue power, money becomes a byproduct of your dominion. Look at the billionaires of today. The masses think their fortune gives them influence. But examine closely. Their wealth endures only because they control platforms, markets, systems that bind others into dependence. Remove the structure of power, and the fortune vanishes like smoke in the wind. This is why money alone cannot protect you. Lottery winners prove this every year. They gain wealth without power, and within a few years, they are broke, humiliated, forgotten. They had the shadow without the source. They tried to grasp sunlight by catching the silhouette on the wall. Machiavelli would warn you, if you chase money without understanding power, you will always be at risk. You will build castles on sand. But if you master power, discipline over yourself, command over perception, influence over others, then money must obey. It has no choice. So the question you must ask is not, how do I get more money? But rather, where does power flow? And how can I position myself to direct it? Learn this, and money becomes automatic, inevitable, obedient. And remember, the powerful do not measure themselves in dollars. They measure themselves in obedience, in silence after their words, in the weight of their presence. Money can vanish. True power endures. Brutal truth. Number 7. Money is a weapon, not a blessing. The masses look at money as a blessing. They pray for it. They romanticize it. They imagine that once money arrives, suffering will end and peace will begin. But Machiavelli would laugh at such naivety. For him, money was never a blessing. It was always a blade. Think of money as a sword. In the hands of the weak, it cuts only themselves. In the hands of the powerful, it carves empires. This is why history remembers those who used wealth strategically, not sentimentally. The Medici in Florence did not worship money. They weaponized it. They bought loyalty, financed wars, commissioned art that shaped culture for centuries. Their coins became arrows in the great battle for perception and control. But what do most people do with money? They spend it to soothe their wounds. They use it to distract themselves from meaninglessness. They waste it proving status to those who do not matter. This is not strategy. This is surrender. When money is used for comfort, it is a blessing that quickly evaporates. But when money is sharpened into a weapon, invested with calculation, directed toward influence, it becomes something that can outlive you. Machiavelli warned princes never to spend lavishly for appearances unless it served a strategic purpose. For him, every coin was a soldier. Every expense was either a strike of dominance or a sign of weakness. To waste money on vanity was to disarm yourself before the enemy. And here lies the final brutal truth. If you do not weaponize money, someone else will weaponize it against you. Employers use wages to bind workers into obedience. Politicians use donations to bend laws into their shape. Banks use debt as a leash around the necks of nations. The game is not about money itself. It is about who wields it with intent. So if you want money to change your life, stop asking for it to bless you. Ask instead, whose armor will this buy me? Whose loyalty will this secure? What doors will this unlock that force alone could never open? Money is not a gift. It is a tool of war. And like all weapons, it must be mastered. Mishandled, it destroys its owner. Controlled, it conquers the world. Now you see the pattern. The 7 brutal truths of money are not comforting. They are not meant to be. They are meant to strip you of illusions, the same way Machiavelli stripped princes of romantic ideas about goodness, fairness, or mercy. Money is not freedom. Money is not security. Money is not happiness. Money is the battlefield where your psychology, your discipline, and your strategy are revealed. Most people will spend their lives chained by illusions about it. They will chase it blindly, hoard it fearfully, waste it foolishly. They will never understand that money is not the prize. It is the proof. Proof of your power. Proof of your self-mastery. Proof of your ability to bend reality to your will. The question is not whether money will change your life. It always will. The question is whether it will change you into a slave or into a ruler. Machiavelli would remind you, the game of life is not about being good. It is about being effective. And in this world, where money touches every corner of existence, you cannot afford illusions. You must learn the brutal truths. You must wield money as a weapon, not worship it as a god. Because in the end, money does not belong to the masses. It belongs to the few who are ruthless enough to see it clearly and disciplined enough to command it. The masses will pray for blessings. The rulers will sharpen weapons. Which one are you?